back. Dead Air, how are you? Hello, we're Redban. How's it going?
How's it going, buddy?
Everything's just fine. We're here. We're excited. Ben Wilson is back with us. We had some issues the last time you appeared.
Let's go.
Surprise, surprise. You had Ben in the studio and you had issues.
I wanted you to come back and maybe you'll have a better... You'll have something to say about some
Right.
And a good friend of yours, and I think we met at one of the Thanksgiving celebrations.
We met a few times. Yeah. I saw you was when you were on Kill Tony.
Wow.
Yeah.
You did you go to the live show?
It was a long story. I got wrangled into the live show, and then I got pulled up on the Comedy Store patio, and who do I see? The great Brian Holtzman.
So you were at the Kill Tony my first appearance on Kill Tony, and the second
Your brother came. It was the one where your brother showed up.
Oh, that was probably the first one, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to see it and experience Kill Tony.
The great experience.
In the home turf, kind of like the home field at the Comedy Store. It was just amazing. So introduce yourself.
Ghazal Hassan. I'm a local broadcaster, writer, and just like you, I hang out with Ben, hoping something better is going to happen. And 27 years, and I'm still waiting. But really good guy, really funny guy, really good guy right here.
And say your name again slowly.
Ghazal.
Yeah. What's the last name?
Hassan.
Yeah. Okay, so you're Irish.
Scotch Romanian. Yeah.
So tell us a little about your background. You're from
born and raised in New Jersey. So very heavy. For those who don't know, New Jersey is the highest, most densely populated state in the nation, and also very heavy concentration of Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, so South Asia. My parents were born in India, but moved to Pakistan in the partition, after the partition in 47.
47,
But
right.
born and raised in New Jersey, came out here for college. My dad who's a college specialist, go for a year, try it. If you don't like it, come back. And 20-some years later, here I am, still here, working in broadcasting. I do local sports, play-by-play stuff. But, I worked at the Comedy Store for a little bit. Yeah.
I tell you, I'm going to be a little intimidated because you are a professional broadcaster. So you speak well and you pronounce all the words correctly.
That's right.
And so I don't want you to be...
well, I'm in awe of you. This is like I'm meeting Mo Green here.
I'm just don't be disappointed in my performance.
My credit,
on Dead Air, okay?
Brian. My credit good enough to buy you out.
So, in 1947, they split. They made Pakistan became. It was part of India and then became Pakistan.
Right.
And it was over the Hindus and the Muslims. Is that right?
Yeah, ostensibly, but it was a weird situation in that there's the British colonial aspect of it is left out, right? So the Brits knew they were leaving, and they're like, okay, we're gonna lose this great valley of resources,
Right.
And so for about 100 years they've been kind of trying to ferment dissension. That's what you do, right? When you go to a place, you want to get the people fighting so you can kind of loot whatever you need to loot
like
out
what's
of there.
happening here in America.
More or less. Yeah. So
I shouldn't be laughing at that.
it's yeah. And I was told there wasn't going to be any politics on the podcast.
We try to limit it, but in today's climate, it's kind of hard. We had a listener that doesn't want to listen anymore because I had a guest on, and he thought the coronavirus should be herd mentality. Let anybody die who needs to die and thin the herd. And I didn't take him to task like I should have, but I didn't want to go down a rat. I could have cleaned the guy's clock in 5 seconds. I don't want to necessarily do that to every guest that I disagree with. But the guy was talking heavy duty shit. I think we all thought he was a nut, and his father was a doctor.
Yeah.
So they separated India and Pakistan. So
Along
it's the same
religious lines. You've seen the movie Gandhi?
Yes.
Very
poor dresser, but
the great Ben Kingsley.
you think you'd get a pair of jeans or something?
Yeah. It's very hot out there, very humid out there, Brian. You want it to hang loose. Along religious lines. So the Hindu majority took India, the Muslim majority took Pakistan, and here we stand.
It's basically the same people, same food, same people. They just
Don't say that too loud. I don't want to get you hurt. But yeah, I mean, culturally, there's a lot of similarities. What's interesting is it's more a regional thing, right? So if you're from the north, you have the same kind of customs versus from the south. I always joke my family's from Karachi, which is in the south port city of Pakistan. We're like the Irish of South Asia. They're all factory workers.
Philly.
But yeah, exactly, precisely. My uncles all worked in steel mills and whatnot. So yeah, there he is. There's the Mahatma.
And you know that place up the Golden Temple?
Yeah.
And then you just go, I guess, west into Pakistan. At the border, they have a ceremony every
awesome.
day. You got to see this. You can
Yeah.
go, you can Google it on YouTube. What's the ceremony called?
So it's the border, and they at the beginning of the day they raise the flags. At
Right.
the end of the day they lower the flags, and it's a big deal.
They have bleachers.
It is a big
and
deal.
People see it and watch it, and they march and they
Right up to the line, right?
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
it's
And
just fascinating.
Both armies have their own specific rituals of how they, it's
Have you witnessed that?
I have not. Sadly, I have not. I want to go do that. What was interesting is my cousin took my uncle many years ago, about 10 years ago, he took him. And, my uncle's he's a history fanatic, so he loves all these historical things. And he just, at the last, it's like one of those things where he just didn't want to go.
We'll get to you, Ben. Maybe
worry.
maybe next show.
And
Go
anyway,
ahead.
they made a video. If you go on YouTube and you look at it's fantastic. It's a great little ritual.
Oh yeah, I saw it already because
Yeah.
I know a friend. His name is Shah from the job I used to work at. His name is Shah, and SHAH.
A lot of Shahs, in both countries.
And he told me about it. And he showed me all the YouTube videos on
What's
it.
that? What would I search for?
What would
Just go India-Pakistan border flag, march or whatever. But there's a food guy. His name's Martin Weens. He's on YouTube. And he did, there it is, flag lowering ceremony. There we go.
This is fascinating. And they have people just.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal,
Look
man.
at the uniforms. Everything's just
It's like
fit and polished.
it's like The Bachelor. It's huge, man.
Now, India's kind of getting rough. I don't want to talk about politics, but they're really, really giving Kashmir a hard time. They're taking internet access away.
For a year.
I mean, they're really, Jesus.
So totalitarian's going to totalitariate,
And look at these mustaches. These mustaches are great on these guys. Look at this. Every hair is in place. The uniform. Look.
Looks like Brody Stevens.
So they do this twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening.
Maybe it's just once. I'm wondering, because I know
In the
they
evening, maybe.
they obviously they raise the flag and they take down the flag. I'm guessing it's probably just one ceremony.
Probably in the evening, maybe. Because the sun looks like it's setting in the west there. This is the Pakistani side for sure, I bet, huh?
No, I think it's the Indian side. Actually.
Is that the Indian side?
Because the Pakistani side, they wear the berets.
Well, you can't tell the difference. They're now, who is this character? He looks like a cheerleader for the Pac-10.
All right.
So you're an announcer for basketball and
Done many sports, basketball, baseball, college. So Big West college basketball and baseball primarily. But the work is where you go.
you got a perfect voice, man. We had
Thank you.
You know who else had a good voice on Dead Air is see what I mean?
Elmer Fudd.
The great Ben Wilson has a great voice. What are you talking about?
Ben
The
Wilson
show
has
you
a
were
great
on, Alonzo Bowden.
Oh, yeah.
Bowden's tough.
Oh man, he's got a
Bowden's
good
tough.
voice.
Yeah. Bowden's tough.
So you have brothers and sisters?
A younger brother, younger sister. Yeah.
Right. Now, what about this? If the younger sister, if she marries somebody your parents don't like, is she going to lose her life? Do you do that kind of thing? No, we hear about a lot of this. There's even television shows that have it.
I know.
On.
My sister's been married like 14 years now. We don't like him, but he's still alive. No, he's good
She's
dude.
still alive.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a
So
good dude.
your parents let it go.
Yeah, that's a little bit overdone. Overdone in media. Little overdone.
So I just want to just make sure that's okay. Let's. It's fascinating. Yeah, a lot of fascinating things to talk about. Ben, we'll get to you. Let's go over we got a lot of interesting items of interest and we'll do the weather real quick. We got a big hurricane. Laura's gonna hit Louisiana, I think, down to the Gulf. It's
Category 4 now.
They say it's bigger than Katrina. And Katrina's 15-year anniversary coming up. It's 145 mile an hour winds. And temperature today is 98 degrees, 35 degrees Celsius, zero chance of participation. Thank you, buddy.
Your participation trophy.
The pollen count is moderate. The winds are out of the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour. That never changes. I'm going to have to check into that. That might be something wrong with the meter or something. Maybe it's broken. It's
Yeah, here it
stuck on.
says it's 4.
Oh, wow. 4. So then maybe my information is slightly, the UV level is very high, 9. So get that sunscreen out.
Yeah.
You won't have to worry, Ben.
Don't worry about that. But
And,
the wind out of the south, isn't that, when is it considered Santa Ana winds as opposed to something else? Where else would it blow from?
Well, it comes from here, it comes from there. It's hard to tell where the wind is coming from. So how long have you known Ben?
Too long. We met back in the old stand-up days. I mean, Ben, I admired Ben. I mean, probably like you when you met him.
Yeah.
Ben was, I hate this. So Ben calls me and says, hey, you want to do Holtzman's podcast? And obviously I'm a fan of yours. So I'm like, of course. But I said, Ben, I'm just going to say things you don't want people to know, right? Like, you got to be careful with that. But, Ben.
What a good friend you are.
No, but right. But see, because you know how friends have two different worlds, right? So when when you and I sit with Ben, I meet Ben, but I don't know, people don't know he did stand up. So we're around a mixed company of friends, and I'm like, when Ben was doing stand up, ...
That's where I met him.
And they're all like, oh, he did stand up, and I'm like, oh, maybe should I have not said that? But yeah, Ben was touring. He was touring and he was opening for big name guys, and we all kind of admired how funny he was and how hardworking he was. And so I've known him a long time.
Then he hit the pipe.
I wish I had that sort of excuse to fall back on that. Yeah.
Visibility today is 10 miles. It's clear. The dew point is 61. Really don't know what that is again. 38% humidity. Sunset's going to be 7:28 p.m. The moon is going to be a waxing gibbons, and 52% you can see. The moon is going to rise at 2:48 p.m. and set at 12:10 a.m. That's pretty early, yeah. And high tide for you fishermen will be at 11:33 p.m. And that's the weather report. The coldest place is in where is the coldest place? It's out there. It's probably the South Pole someplace. I get these weather reports right before the show, so sometimes I don't have time to correctly write them down. They're written down like I speak, kind of gibbled. And the hottest place is in Mexico, if you can believe that, 118 degrees.
That's a lie.
EJIDO.
That's a lie. Hemet, California is always the hottest place in the world.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. It's always hot, though. It's always hot. If you've ever been to Hemet, shout out to Hemet, California, Hemet Bulldogs football. It's always over 100 when we get into these dog days.
You think the college football made a good decision by stopping the play? Because of coronavirus?
I don't know. There's a lot, Brian, there's a lot of money. So what they want to do is they just want to maintain the money. So does it matter when they play for people? I mean, I think as long as they play, they're good, right? We've seen what's happened with baseball. They're canceling a bunch of games. You can't really do that in football. Baseball, you can play every day.
And what about those new rules in baseball?
Hate them.
Were they just put in because of the coronavirus?
Yeah.
Oh, so they're not going to be in regular rules.
Well, I think there's a lobby that wants them to be
I
regular.
thought the overtime, the
Extra-
10th, the
extra
man
inning.
on second. I thought that was going to come. I thought that was happening regardless of the virus. I thought that
No. I
Didn't
think that
they
was
do that
because
in minor leagues someplace?
they did it in the minor leagues. Please, you're gonna give me. I don't really know, to be honest with you.
No, I was just,
my understanding was it was just for the year, but it's so ridiculous. It's just completely ridiculous.
What's ridiculous?
Don't get me started on this. So extra inning. Are you a baseball fan, Brian?
I'm a fan.
Okay.
I go to Dodger Stadium once or twice.
Okay.
But I don't know all the names. I don't know all the names.
But
I don't know the averages and all that.
That's fine. That's fine. Extra innings. You're familiar with extra innings, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I understand that.
So what they're doing now is when a game goes to extra innings, they're putting a runner on second base.
Yeah, I know that. That's what I want to ask you about.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Horrible. It makes no sense.
It's like gym class.
It makes no sense.
You know how they used to do stuff in school?
Could
make
you
it
imagine Billy Martin and Earl Weaver? They're telling him, you got to put a runner at second. I'm guessing they would go to home plate and say, listen, Earl, here's the deal. When our runner gets at second, you pick him off. When your runner gets, we're going to pick him off. And let's just play baseball. So, but some people like it. Some people like it. It's wild.
So who are those people that would like that?
People, it's become political, right? You know how people are like, they're shocked politically. Oh, my grandpa loves Trump or my grandma loves Biden. They're shocked. I'm shocked at respected baseball writers who I grew up admiring are like, yeah, I don't mind 7-inning baseball. I don't mind the runner at second base. I'm like, well, what's happened to you? You know, next thing you know, they're going to put ketchup on hot dogs. You know,
Exactly.
Gosh, yeah.
And you know what? I'll be a bigger baseball fan when they put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. That is a travesty.
See, I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? The guy's 3,000 hits?
Because he cut a deal. Was the problem. There's a great video of Johnny Bench. You know, the great Johnny
You mean
Bench.
he threw games?
No. What happened is when they caught him gambling, they just wanted him to admit that he gambled, and then it would have been all over. But of course, Pete being Pete, he's not going to admit it.
So he played hardball with
Yeah,
Vigilante.
there's I forget if it was Eisen or Dan Patrick had Johnny Bench on their show. And Bench explained the whole thing. He said, me, Jewel Morgan, Mike Schmidt, we went to Pete. We told him this is what you need to do. And they're all on the Hall of Fame committee, right? So these guys are like, do these 3 things and you're in, you know, you'll have to wait, 5 years, but you'll get in. And he basically, according to Johnny, now Pete disputes what Johnny said. He basically flipped them all off. And that was kind of anathema. I mean, as far as his body of work, of course he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But he's not in the Hall of Fame because he cut this deal with Major League Baseball and wouldn't admit that he gambled. So I think,
he's not in the Hall of Fame because he didn't cut a deal.
no, he did, but he did. What happened
I don't
was
understand.
they said the offer was that either you can admit you bet on baseball, we're going to suspend you, and then we'll come back, or you can agree to a ban, and then you apply for a reinstatement later, knowing that it's like
Then the guy died right after that. Had a heart attack.
Well, yeah,
commissioner.
Giamatti.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Giamatti and it wasn't his dying words to Faye Vincent that he didn't want him in, but it was
Pete
close.
never. Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
I know, but it just seems like the greatest. This is like the equivalent of Ty Cobb and the greats of the greats.
I mean,
3,000 hits.
let's not turn him into Mickey Mantle, Brian. Come on.
You don't think he's like
it's
a
not-
Mickey Mantle?
I don't.
See, I don't know that much about sports.
But to gamble is not something that just like falls into your lap. I mean, if it was just one thing that he's making bets with guys
But
in
then
this
I
clubhouse.
said to myself the other day when I was going to discuss this, is what about every workplace has a football pool? The whole country's gambling.
Of course.
yeah, that's
Everything is
and
gambling.
that's
one
why
thing he's doing, but he's got a bookie and he's actually got caught going into the casinos in Vegas.
There's a lot of professional players have done a lot worse than Pete Rose.
Well, here's a problem with that. He always says that. See, that's the problem is that there's if you go into a major league clubhouse, there's a big sign. It's been there since 1919 that you're associating with gamblers. It's a huge
That's
warning.
a big taboo.
I mean, now listen. Major League Baseball has made its own bed, right? Now that they're in with the DraftKings and they're in with all these gambling apps, how are they going to keep them out, right?
Right.
Like at this point, I think next year you're going to be able to gamble on games in the ballpark. How do you keep Pete Rose out when every fan can get a gambling ticket walking in the door? So I think eventually he gets in, but that was the reason. Gambling was a big deal to baseball after obviously the 1919 White Sox threw the World Series.
I guess I understand what you're saying, but I'm just a little. I grew up watching him.
Yeah, great player.
And just a great play to watch.
Great player.
When he was in the field or at bat, it was just something to watch. It was so difficult to strike out. So difficult to strike that guy out. And once he got on the bases, forget it. Remember the incident he had with Buddy Harrelson in the Mets?
Of course. Yeah.
At second base?
The funny thing is, I didn't understand Pete Rose until I grew up and had friends who had gambling problems. Then or addictions in general, right? Then you get it, right? You have your friend who, I remember I had a buddy, poker guy, really good poker player. And he's like, I'm going to buy a house with cash I won on poker. I'm like, wow, that's impressive, and he'd be at the Commerce or he'd be in Vegas every weekend playing poker. And then, I didn't hear from the guy for 3 or 4 months.
He was that good, huh? He always won,
Well,
huh?
that's what I thought, right? I get a call. Hey, this is so-and-so. I don't want to expose his name on the air. But he goes, hey, you got $15,000? I need $15,000 to get me even, And I'm thinking like this guy 3-4 months ago is telling me he's got enough cash to buy a house that he's won off poker. That's just, it's the mindset. It's just the mindset. I'm going to win. Guys like you and me and Ben, I mean, we have fun with a couple $100. Maybe we win, maybe we lose. Yeah. But when it's your life, when it's every single thing, when you have that personality and probably why he was such a great player, right?
Unbelievable. All right, let's get to items of interest. You guys can chime in at any time.
Alrighty.
And we'll get through them. And this is a popular portion of the Dead Air. A lot of people like
Love
to
it.
hear
Huge
items
fan.
of interest.
Huge fan.
No, are you saying that? Are you saying that?
No, I when it's good, it's an amazing segment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, not everybody feels that way,
Okay.
right, Ben? A 15-year-old Jacksonville, Florida found he could give old machines a new life for kids who couldn't afford a computer. When Christopher Klipatrek was interning with the electronics recycler Urban Mining this summer, he had a big idea. Why not take some of the retired machines that Urban Mining got from businesses and refurbish them instead of ripping them into salvageable parts? The teen refurbished 20 desktops and donated them to the nonprofit Big Brothers Big Sisters. I like feeling I am making a difference, he said. Shortly after doing a news segment for Tampa's WFLA Channel 8 in June, Victoria Price received an email from an out-of-state viewer who noticed a lump on her neck. Please have your thyroid checked, wrote the viewer. Reminds me of my neck. Mine turned out to be cancer. Price was tempted to dismiss the email, but her boyfriend urged her to see a doctor, and it turned out. And as it turned out, Price had papillary thyroid cancer. Last month, Price underwent surgery to have the thyroid and 19 cancerous lymph nodes removed before it was too late. I just want to thank her from the bottom of my heart. So,
I wish I was that observant, you know?
This happened to my parents when they were in Hawaii. A woman noticed my father and told my mother, hey, your father has Parkinson's disease. And the only reason she knows is because her husband had it. So you can tell when somebody has something that's in your life. And sure enough, it was true. And one time he was just swimming in Hawaii, and my mother was looking for him. Everybody was looking for him, and he was at the bottom of the pool. Parkinson's disease will do that. It'll make you think you're a fish or something. Whoa. That you can stay under the water. So some young guy jumped in and dragged him out. This is on a vacation in Hawaii.
Wow.
Last thing you want to see on a vacation is Hawaii. Swimming in the pool. But, so I thought that was an item of interest. I want to talk to you. You're very interesting, very conversational. You really keep it going. A Colorado police chief decided not to fire an officer who repeatedly commented "kill them all" on social media reports on Black Lives Matter protests. Chief Vince Nasaki, seems like a Japanese guy, Niski, said that while he found Sergeant Keith Word's comments unprofessional, disgraceful,
Colorado Springs,
and not reflective of our department, they were made off-duty out of frustration, and there was no inclination of any physical action or intent to cause harm. That's where you're from.
Yeah, except Colorado Springs is a real conservative town, whereas Denver is not. So it's a lot of gated communities down there. Real pretty town, but it's just right outside.
Like Austin. Austin's pretty liberal and pretty live and let live.
Yeah, but
some parts of Texas are not.
Right near the Air Force Academy, which is really beautiful. It's a nice town. Everyone's friendly enough, but
Did you live? Oh, you lived in Fort Collins. You never lived in Sea Springs.
No.
A bald eagle attacked a high-tech government drone in flight and sent it plummeting into the Lake Michigan. Julia Pounder of the University of Minnesota's Raptor Center said the eagle is the king of the skies and probably felt its territory was being invaded.
It's fair. You're on their turf or in their air, you know?
Heck yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more, to be honest with you. There's so many drones up there. Everybody's got a drone now. You go on Instagram, everybody's taking drone shots.
You got one, Redban?
How many drones are up there?
No, I've kind of just... I feel like that's one of those things I'll buy and I'll use for like a week, and then I'll just won't touch it for forever.
But, there's some people you become all of a sudden you're a professional photographer, right? Because you can fly a drone above the skyline, and now you're taking these aerial shots that otherwise weren't accessible, 20, 30 years ago.
I see them, the YouTubers using them a lot.
But they have certain licenses for doing photography. I mean, anybody can slap a camera on one, but I think for professional grade, you're supposed to go through some course to do that. This
is another one about animals in Africa. in Botswana, they're looking at putting lions less likely to attack a cow if a pair of large eyes painted on its buttocks, which fools predators into thinking they've been spotted. The eye trick researchers said it is a useful addition to the carnivore livestock conflict prevention toolbox.
Now, is that an issue? Like, is there a reason that's an issue? Are cattle herders losing parts of their herds because they're attacked by lions? There's the photo.
That's one of the biggest problems they have in Africa is people have livelihoods with their livestock. Mm-hmm. So, of course, that's money for the family. There's the eyes. Mm-hmm. And the lions and the, it's like the fox and the chickens, It's the same thing. And it's a big problem.
I think the farmers just want to make it look like they're getting blowjobs.
So maybe women should paint eyeballs on the back of their head when they're in the dark parking lot at night, the mall, on their cell phone with the earplugs in, not worrying about anything. And maybe that eyeballs.
Somebody's going to watch this podcast, some researcher, and they're going to get a grant based on your suggestion, Brian. They're going to get like $1 million grant from somebody to do research on this stuff. Yeah.
Actor Dennis Quaid adopted a kitten named Dennis Quaid from a Virginia animal shelter after seeing a TV news report on the orphaned cat. I'm out to save all the Dennis Quaids of the world, Quaid declared.
Did Dennis Quaid just get weird all of a sudden? Like there was a point where he crossed over, right?
I'm Dennis Quaid.
I think he did.
But it's been a few years since that happened, though. Right?
Yeah, the movie that I think that he crossed over was Vantage Point. Remember that? Because I think I saw that with you, Ben.
Yeah.
And it's like he was a different guy. It's like a lizard was inhabiting Dennis Quaid all of a sudden.
He does have that kind of reptilian face, doesn't he?
I'm a lizard.
Oh my!
I mean, I'm not saying anything disparaging. This is just strictly an observation, like the woman with the thyroid lump or whatever. I just saw that. He's moving a lot slower. He's kind of trying to be like a quasi Harrison Ford. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
There was a drunk driving arrest of a British man whose Range Rover had lost the wheel and and had a bumper sticker reading, "I'm not drunk, just avoiding potholes."
Those Brits and their humor.
With the launch in Tokyo of public toilets with see-through walls, the walls become clouded over when the door is locked, but regain their see-through upon the user's exit, thus fostering a spirit of hospitality for the next person. Of course, I substituted some words there that I would have probably butchered.
They've had those for years. I've seen them in...
I haven't seen them ever.
Not in public spaces, but private houses.
Mm-hmm. The airports, you've probably been to the airports, Redban in the Southeast Asia. I don't know if they're in Europe. They have smoking rooms.
They have that in Denver.
Oh, did they have
Or they used to have it up to like recently, and the Denver airport still had a smoking lounge. It was really weird, even as a smoker, like, how is this still a thing here?
Yeah. Oh, I got some big ones here. Geez, these historic heat waves smothered the western U.S. this week, facing rolling blackouts in California and igniting Northern California fires, over 50,000 acres in total. The heat created rare fire-induced tornadoes and violent lightning storms.
Yeah, did you read about? There's supposed to be like a fire tornado. There was a warning for a flame tornado in Northern California.
Yeah, the heat causes its own weather patterns. And
I think this is Santa Cruz. Oh, this is from 2018. Okay, there was that. You saw the footage from Santa Cruz. It was pretty harrowing because all there are redwoods, and they're
huge,
engulfed in flames.
Portland, Oregon's got some more problems. Far-right demonstrators clashed with Black Lives Matter protesters last week, trading paintballs and pepper spray in tense face-off that ended with a pair of shots fired from a moving car. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, a week after school reopened, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill abruptly moved all instruction online after coronavirus clusters infested at least 177 students.
Did you see the student newspaper headline from UNC?
What did it say?
They use the term clusterfuck in the in the student newspaper headline. So I mean, it's wild. The student media. I'm an old student media graduate. Hey, power to the people.
Where'd you go to college?
UC Irvine, down in Orange County.
So when did your family leave New Jersey?
They're still there.
Oh, they're there. You just moved out to the West Coast.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Wow,
because
look at
that.
Yeah, we couldn't.
I'm glad they printed that. I never thought they'd print that.
My days
See that, Ben?
yeah, no.
They wrote the word cluster, F-U-C-K.
We would have to write expletive in brackets.
Cluster fudge.
Yeah.
New York's doing real good. City and state officials celebrated the remarkable turnaround to the coronavirus epidemic this week, even as they braced for a likely second surge of infections in the fall with the start of the school year and cold weather driving people indoors. So that's good. That's a turnaround. I'm breaking it down a little bit, Redban. I'm not reading the whole article. Just the top couple of lines. Speed it along a bit because... again, this is news from around the world, and a lot of it is about the COVID-19. So, Peru has reimposed a Sunday curfew to prevent people from traveling to relatives' houses for family feasts, social gatherings that officials have blamed for the recent spike in COVID-19 cases. Yeah. The only people allowed to leave home on Sundays are essential workers, such as doctors, and they must display a special pass.
Yeah, I wonder if their definition of essential worker is different than ours. Ours seems to be kind of loose.
You think our essential workers are loose?
No, I think that how essential workers are defined can be different.
What do you think?
According to the region.
I think essential workers are essential workers.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, it depends, who, it depends.
I don't know what Ben is talking about.
You never.
I don't know what the hell Ben is talking about.
That's his charm, though. That's his charm. Do you are grocery store workers essential workers?
Of course.
I think so too. I agree.
Gotta eat.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. Yeah. People who are out in the front lines.
Fry's Electronics is an essential worker for Redban.
Best Buy.
Best Buy, okay. Victoria, British Columbia, the pandemic is causing an additional public health crisis in Canada, a spike in the number of overdoses. Border closures have reduced the amount of illicit drugs entering the country, so dealers are bulking up their drugs with toxic substances. That means cutting it with garbage, while users who have to wait a long time for a fix tend to overconsume and die.
Yeah.
This is a good one for the college students to hear this. This is a big debacle in London. English Education Secretary Gavin Wilkinson was fighting for his job this week after the government made a mess of college entrance exams. The exams, known as A-levels, couldn't be held in person because of the pandemic, so the Department for Education asked teachers to base final grades on students' practice tests and previous work. But the country's education regulator decided teachers had been too generous, and it used the here's this problem again, this algorithm. And this is terrible because this is a computer telling you what's going to happen.
That's right.
And this is not good news. People are going to lose out on services and entitlement programs when the computer decides, as opposed to case-by-case basis. They let the computer decide. So this computer decided, and they got upset, and they changed it, and they changed it around, and they didn't use the algorithm. And they used the first, so I thought that was interesting item of interest. So watch out for those algorithms. And this is kind of, this one is really kind of nuts. This is out of Brazil. A far-right Brazilian paramilitary group tried to prevent a 10-year-old rape victim from getting an abortion this week. The girl's name and the hospital where she was to have the procedure was leaked online by Sarah Giorami, a leader of the armed group OS 300 that supports their president over there, Bolsonaro. Anti-abortion activists and politicians blocked the entrance of the hospital in this town where the girl was supposed to receive the termination, screaming murderers. The activists claimed that the girl's pregnancy had gone beyond the 12-week limit in which abortions is permitted. The girl who says she was raped repeatedly by her 33-year-old uncle. was safely sneaked onto the hospital grounds in the trunk of a car. Brazilian courts have ordered social media companies to scrub the girl's name from the internet. Man, come on. If uncle rapes the girl and she's underage and they still want her to carry the baby.
She'll probably die at that age.
My God, this is just, there's no words to describe how somebody could make a woman have a baby that's the result of a rape.
Forget the physical trauma, just the psychological and emotional trauma that she's already had to deal with.
Right.
Before whatever choice she makes, right? Oh man.
People have they have no feelings for the people that are alive or, walking around. So that abortion thing is a real dicey thing, and I know it's a third, fourth rail. I don't know. I just don't think men should tell women what to do with their bodies. But that's my opinion. Keep them in the house, change to the radiator, but don't make them have abortions if they don't want to. Don't keep them from having abortions if they don't want to. Somalia is not a good place to go on vacation. 5 militants with the Al-Shabaab jihadist group blasted their way into an upscale hotel in Mogadishu this week, killing at least 12 people. The attack detonated a car bomb outside the elite hotel, a popular meeting spot for Somali government officials and business leaders, and then stormed the building. Salami police forces took back the hotel after a 4-hour gun battle. So stay out of Somalia. They've got some problems over there. Here's another COVID-19 case in New Zealand. More than 3 months after New Zealand was declared free of coronavirus, about 75 cases have been detected in Auckland. And authorities don't know where the new outbreak originated. Prime Minister says they put her under a 2-week lockdown, so they're going to go through that again. And here's a real interesting for pet lovers out of North Korea. As a food shortage grips North Korea, the regime has ordered pet dogs to be confiscated in the country's capital, denouncing the keeping of pets as a bogus extravagance. Ordinary people raise pigs and livestock on their porches. A source told South Korea so-and-so, but high-ranking officials and the wealthy own pets, dogs, which stoked some resentment. Hungry North Koreans regard feeding a pet as wasteful, an outrageous diversion of food that could go to a needy family. Authorities are now forcing households with pet dogs to surrender the animals or have them put down.
That's awful.
Some of the animals sent to zoos, while many are sold to dog meat restaurants.
Oh.
Wow. Well, the next question is going to say, we love dogs, but if you're hungry, what's the real difference if you know what you're doing in the kitchen, and you're good with spices and you're good with all that stuff, and what's the difference between a leg of lamb or a leg of dog or a leg of cow?
That's fair. That's fair,
what I
Ryan.
mean? At the end of the day, you have to eat.
Right.
Ben Wilson rolling his eyes over here. He's not a vegan. Not a vegan.
Because whenever you mention eating dogs or cats in America, people are just outraged. But let them go over there and starve for a few weeks, and that dog and that cat with the right spices might just do the trick. You know what I mean? It's easy to say that in America, but you're not over there. When I was in India, I went to India, and I saw all the people next to the train tracks in the morning kneeling, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on.
Yeah,
that was their morning constitution, and they had a little bowl with water, and that was. These people can't even wait for a red light to change, much less take a shit next to the damn railroad track.
Train station, yeah.
Jeez. So that was. I knew that'd get a response. That dog one. This one's about our friend from the Beatles. In the aftermath of the Beatles' 1969 split, Paul McCartney would routinely shrug off his old band's importance. Said so and so and so and so. That was partly a result of the Fab Four's bad breakup. McCartney had sued his fellow Beatles to prevent John Lennon's conniving manager, Alan Klein, from seizing control of the group's back catalog. That was horrendous, and it gave me some terrible times, said McCartney. I drank way too much. Lennon started planting barbs in his solo lyrics, insinuating that Yesterday was the only Beatles song written by McCartney. It left McCartney ranked with self-doubt until he forced himself to appreciate his vast contributions. Eleanor Rigby, Hey Jude, Let It Be, and many more. He began to understand that the Beatles had been a family, and families have disputes. In the early days of the Beatles, they'd be in the back of a van in the freezing British winter, so you had to lie on top of each other. That makes friends of people.
I mean, listen, Paul did okay. You know, I mean, you read these stories now. I mean, the guy has had a good life. Isn't he knighted? Isn't he Sir Paul McCartney?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I get it. You know, it's like, listen, you're in the muck, right? You're an artist, and you remember those moments when you're sitting in that freezing car. But by 1969, he'd had a pretty good life, Paul McCartney.
McCartney made up with Lennon years before his ex-bandmate was shot dead in 1980, so we were friends till the end. Now, age 78, McCartney often has dreams in which he's playing with Lennon or George Harrison, who died in 2001. It's normally very pleasant. I love those boys.
Where did McCartney show up? He played at Dodger Stadium last year.
With Ringo, right?
Yeah. Was it? Was he Was he a guest of somebody's, or was it his show?
I thought it was his show, right? Wasn't it his show, and then Ringo showed up?
Right. Oh, okay, then that's what it was.
Ben's questions are very difficult. I've noticed that. Very difficult questions to answer at all times.
Were you a Beatles guy, Brian? You a Beatles fan at all? You're a music guy, right? Did you play guitar a little bit?
I never bought any albums.
Okay.
I never had the money to buy albums. My brothers had albums. People I knew had albums. I would play them.
Yeah.
If you've got family members, then sure. Why
sometimes you go in people's homes and they have whole cadenzas of 33 LP long plain albums. Someday I'm going to go through my brother Jay's residence, and I bet there'll be a lot of albums in there that might be worth some money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're a Beatles guy, Ben?
Not really, no.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's very unusual. I think everybody likes a Beatles song. Prince William and Harry didn't speak for 2 months, and nobody cares. A burglary at Superdike, Ellen DeGeneres' California mansion was an inside job. That's a compliment. Is Dyke a bad word? Oh, I'm sorry. Super lesbian. Is that better? Is that
can we talk about?
Back?
Can you say
Rolling Stone or the Beatles?
The Beatles. The Rolling Stone early, not this latest Rolling Stone nonsense. Did you hear the latest Rolling Stone song?
I did not.
It's a ghost town. Any one of us could have wrote a song like that. It's like they're just throwing shit against the wall. It's a ghost town. It's a ghost. They're talking about what's going on today. It's just garbage. So garbage.
Not to get off, you bring up the Rolling Stones, not to get off on a tangent, but when I was a kid, there was a TV show called Tour of Duty. It was about, people in Vietnam, right? And the theme song, which got me hooked into it, was Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones. So, they'd play like 90 seconds of Paint It Black. They introduce all the actors. Terrence Knox is a big star. I think it was Kim Delaney's first series, like 87, 88. Anyway, long story short, it's on. There's this, I don't want to speak out of turn. There's a independent TV network on that runs old shows. And Tour of Duty happened to be on there. So I came home and I'm like, let me check this out. They took the Rolling Stones song out because they can't pay the royalties. And there's some like weird, and the whole point of me wanting to I want to hear, it's weird. I could go to YouTube and listen to Paint It Black till the cows come home. But no, I want to see Paint It Black. Yeah, I want to hear, yes, thank you, Brian. This is what I want to hear.
Yeah, early Stones is completely a different band than the bullshit that they're feeding today.
Right, I understand that. But this is my introduction. My parents not from this country. I didn't know the Rolling Stones from what. This show, I'm like, wow, that's a cool song. That's a cool band. And I want to learn about the Rolling Stones. It's my Slumdog Millionaire moment there,
Funny that I did an Instagram video the other day, and I used a CD of Elvis, Return to Sender.
Oh.
And I got a notice from YouTube saying, you better knock it off.
Yeah, that's why I put it real low. I put a lot of reverb on it. And then
What was the show Dana Delaney was on?
China Beach.
Okay.
That was
I
Reflections.
remember
Yeah,
that
yeah,
China
yeah.
Beach.
Yeah.
That lasted just a couple of minutes, huh? How long did seasons?
I don't know. I remember that show because when I was at UCLA, a woman that I was in class with, who's actually become a pretty big writer now, that was her. Like, we had to do a presentation of something we liked, and she did China. And amazing. I'd never watched the show. I'm like, wow, I wish I'd watched the show. It seemed really interesting. But it was Reflections was the opening theme song here.
So they had to take the song out of the television show because they couldn't pay the royalties.
That's what I'm guessing. They didn't want to. Maybe they could have paid, but they're like, well, it's on some independent station in LA. Why do we need to spend all this money when 6 people are going to watch?
They do that a lot. Like the movie Wayne's World. There's a part where he holds the guitar and he looks up and it says "No Stairway to Heaven," and he was playing "Stairway to Heaven."
Right.
And then when they released it on video, it's just some generic song that they replaced it.
It's like an actor buddy of mine. His first assignment, or he was a high school kid. He did an episode of 21 Jump Street. And I remember it because he was in it, obviously. But the end of the episode, I remember as a kid watching it, there was they had "Can't Find My Way Home," Blind Faith, the Blind Faith song. So he got an old video. All of us get together to watch this episode of him as a 16-year-old, doing his acting debut. And the end of this, it's some generic guitar thing because they couldn't pay for the song. It's crazy. I've heard that's why, HBO Max they're reissuing all these HBO shows. There was a show, the people who did Friends did a show called Dream On HBO. Brian Benben starred in it. And
man, you know all the names, man.
It was great. No, but it was a great show. No, Brian, this is important.
I like it.
It was a great show. And so I'll be the jerk. I'll go on Twitter and say, "Hey, HBO, any chance we'll get to see Dream On?" And the reason is they have all these clips from these old TV shows they can't get licensed because streaming, it's all confusing. I guess the lawyers can't figure out how to get it on. So it's a shame that there's a generation of kids that will never be able to watch that show because of licensing stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all it was. Well, not all it was.
Well, I have a big bone to pick too. I want to see In Living Color.
Well, but they have reruns of In Living Color, or there's no streaming
You got to
options?
watch it on YouTube, I think. You can't. Comedy Central has got it, and it's up on a shelf, and they're not letting it come off a shelf. I mean,
don't mention it to Ben, by the way.
No, I would. Don't. No.
So remember I told you I'm going to tell a bunch of stories that Ben doesn't want me to tell?
No, please don't.
Okay, we'll tell that one then.
No, it's not really that big of a deal. It was just crazy stuff with submission gone awry. Yeah.
You got to tell us now.
No, it's not. Well, that's pretty much it. Like,
well, you didn't tell us anything.
Well, no, just the submission that didn't get through.
Oh, I see.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's the greatest comedy show. One of the greatest. I'm Rick James, bitch.
Chappelle.
That was Chappelle's show.
Oh yeah, okay, same thing. That's on the shelf too. That's what I mean.
That's right. No, somebody runs Chappelle's show now, but they'll
Really?
run like 5 episodes at once. I don't know who it is, but yeah, I don't think you can stream it on their website though.
Wow. I thought somebody had that under wraps too. Comedy Central had that under wraps.
I think they do. I think they'll spit them out like 5 at a time at some random point, and then that you don't see because I think for the contract they need to air a certain number, right?
So Ellen DeGeneres got her home ripped off. They say it was an inside job, and when you're that wealthy, does it really matter if they steal all your stuff in the house?
So inside job,
but
would mean so people she hired to work at the house came back later and stole stuff.
Somebody probably knew she wasn't home. That's let me see what it says. It says home to dozens of celebrities, including Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry. Said crime is very rare there. This is up in Santa Barbara, and quoted police as telling them that the thief appears to be an inside job. It's unknown whether the talk show host, 62, and wife, Portia de Rossi, 47, were home at the time of the break-in.
Did you ever work with, did either of you ever work with Ellen DeGeneres on the stand-up circuit at all?
Oh, no.
No?
She's funny.
I did a interview with her right before her show came out for
Because I remember her old stand up, like in this is like in the late 80s, early 90s. Not a lot of women were showcased doing stand up, and she was actually pretty funny. It was different stuff. It was different stuff than she does on her show, obviously. What did you think? You heard about how the culture of her show is really bad and she was really abusive to her employees?
Well, somebody who's worked a long time, every work center has a different tone. Some people are mean and some people are taskmasters. And
no, I get it. I mean, listen, I work in sports, right? I mean, coaches are notoriously crazy.
But in this particular situation, I mean, how out to lunch do you have to be? Because there's only a couple of hundred people running this show. Cameraman, the union people, the producers, the people of the Gophers. There's only so many people. It's very easy for her to just find out if anybody has, it's called having an open door policy. Making sure everything's just fine, especially when it's not like a factory that nobody knows about. This is a television show that gets pumped all over the world. You think you'd want to make sure you have a good work center. You know what I mean?
But the problem is because, and this is what happens, right? Let's say this podcast takes off, right? And now you're doing the Brian Holtzman show, Brian, on the NBC network. They're going to have 10 people to insulate you from everybody who works for you, right?
No, that's what they said. They weren't allowed to say hello to her.
Right.
So you're saying maybe it wasn't her that was saying don't say hello to me?
I don't know. Look, the story that got me going was there was a woman on her staff that tried to kill herself, right? Suicide attempt. And then a month later, they're like, okay, take all the time you need. We love you, blah, 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 blah. And then a month later, she comes back and they downsize her out of her job, Now, obviously they didn't say it, but I have to think somebody in HR is like, we can't have this liability going on, and they didn't fire her. They're like, oh, we're kind of restructuring the management, so you're not needed anymore. But I'll tell you a funny story. I interviewed for a job at the Premier Radio Networks. They have a studio in Sherman Oaks, right? So I go in there and the guy showed me through and great interview. It's a great studio, a lot of history there. This is 2003. Okay. So Casey Kasem was still alive. And that's where he does we would do the top 40 out of that studio. So he's walking around. He's like, yeah, this is where this guy does his show. This is Fox Sports Radio. Oh, and this is where Casey Kasem does, his show. 8-year-old me grew up listening to Casey Kasem do the top 40. I look in there and, I'm just out of school. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I go, oh, hey, Brian, there's Casey Kasem. And the guy's face went white as a ghost and he went nuts and he's like pulling me away. Apparently there was a rule that if Casey Kasem is working, you can't bring people to look into his studio, which obviously I didn't know. I was an idiot. I was, but he didn't realize that Casey Kasem was there. I'm like, wow, his reaction was like, damn. So clearly if he brings this young kid who's interviewing to look at Casey, he's going to get fired. That was my reaction. So it was really weird. And I was wondering, well, is that really Casey Kasem or is that the 10 people who are making money off the show who want to protect him from, a guy like me going up to him and asking him for a job? I don't know. I remember working with a guy.
Do you know Dave Smith, the sports guy?
A little bit. I know Dave from years
He knows
back.
all the names. He knows the coaches, what the coaches eat.
Good guy.
The coaches' wives' names, the children, how long they've been this and that. It's just amazing me, the detail of sports fans, that the information, like yourself, that How do you know it all?
Well, the problem is this.
Read every damn article in every newspaper there is?
It's people ask me all the time. You put two and two together, right? So I know Brian Holtzman through Ben. And Ben will tell me stories about Holtzman, and then I'll tell you the story of how I met you. I met you with Ben. I don't think it was Thanksgiving. I think it was like an Easter thing. You and your lovely girlfriend came and we got to meet. And a couple months later, I'm at the Comedy Store, and you were going up, and I introduced myself. I don't know if you remember me or not, but you were on a rant. You were on about something, and you're just ranting. I'm like, ha ha ha, Brian, funny Brian. And then you go up on stage, and you continue. And what I always remember about that night was it was kind of a dead night at the Comedy Store, and even the good guys who normally would get big laughs weren't getting laughs. And it was like you could have risen Sam Kinison from the dead, and like. The crowd was just really dead. And remember, this is back when you're going up at like 12:30. And I remember you got on stage and you flipped that crowd at 12:30. And I was like, wow, and it was, you were doing crazy stuff about everybody's a traitor. That was your through line that night was like, cause you come up to me, all women are traitors, and I'm like, okay. Like, no, they are. I'm kind of joking, but I'm really not, And then you get up on stage and then everybody's a traitor. Like, you're like, men, women, animals, they're all traitors. And you just had this brilliant rant, And I told...
Doesn't sound like me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you at all. And anyway, so the point is, it's association, right? You meet people. When you're starting out, you meet people. And then ideally, you move up like they move up. And, it's like you start off covering high school sports. You meet a kid from high school. And then 7 years later, he's in the NBA. You know everything about him because, like, his parents are tweeting you and sending you text messages. Oh, listen what my son did. Blah, blah, blah. That's how it goes. It's relationships. It's like comedy. It's like relationships.
Do you have a voiceover tape that you could submit for that kind of work too?
I just did a voiceover project for a company. It was like weird. It was like a soccer. I'm not a big soccer guy. Right? I just didn't work out that way. But they needed an English translation for this soccer game, so I went and did. I'm like, it's weird. It's like you're watching YouTube videos doing play-by-play to them, but you have to hit certain marks. Yeah, that's Casey Kasem. Kamal Kazem is his real name. I think he's like Lebanese. Kamal Kazem.
I didn't really like that sad story he had at the end, that letter he would read about some kind of nonsense.
The long-distance dedications were the best. What are you talking about?
Uncle Albert lost his leg.
Dear
now
Casey,
he doesn't have any
could you
money.
please play? Yeah.
RM 1340, where we're getting involved with you.
You know who I like? Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey's great.
Is he dead now?
I think he's dead. I think he died a few years ago.
I found him in the Air Force in Okinawa. They used to play him on the speakers in the shop, Paul, and the rest of the story.
I mean, it's deeper.
You know Paul Harvey?
I love Paul Harvey.
Yeah.
It's just a deeper topic. We're of a certain age, and it's like broadcasters back, in the day. You even like go back to 70s and 80s. They were trained. Even like guys like look at a guy like Letterman. He was a real broadcaster.
Let me tell you what I can't stand too, and I think you'll agree with me. Even today, in 2020, on the news channels, all they say, from the studio into the reporter in the street, the first thing out of their mouth is yeah. They don't even know how to say yes. They say yeah.
That is annoying.
It teaches the kids that, just talk like a shithead. Just talk like a shithead. Because we don't expect anything out of you but shit talk.
Well, it's with anything.
On national TV, do you think the producer would tell the on-air personality, stop saying yeah? Stop saying yeah.
I'm going to stop talking right now because then somebody's going to head this video and say, hey, look at this old guy. But I sit with my colleagues in broadcasting and we talk about this a lot. You can tell a lot by how someone's been trained. And it's not, the blame isn't on the person who has the job. If somebody's offering you $100,000 to go do a job, you're going to say yes. But the problem is in the training. The broadcasters need to be trained in a certain way. People will ask me.
We're talking about saying yes instead of yeah.
Yes.
So what are you talking about? Training.
That comes from education.
That would come from the teachers, your instructors.
Everybody's been told to say yes. When you were growing up as a kid, your parents always said, you don't say yeah. Yeah is not in the dictionary. You don't say yeah. You say yes.
Well, and that's it.
One of their instructors. It's like night and day. It's like night and day.
One of their instructors.
You watch the news. All they say is yeah. Doesn't that bother you as a professional broadcaster?
A lot bothers me. It's a different style now. You can't.
It's not a style. That's shit talk.
It's ridiculous. But if you watch the news, that's 90% of the people who are on.
They get their hair done. They get their lipstick. They put the dress on. They accent their breasts. They look sexy. They look like they're millions of dollars. And the first thing out of their freaking face is yeah.
And one of their instructors should have corrected them on that because
it's the producer. If I was a producer, one of these idiots riding around in the vans, I'd grab her by the throat and I'd say, "Hey, stop saying yeah.
They need to hire you,
you little bitch. Stop saying yeah."
This is the Brian Holtzman that was at the Comedy Store that night. My mentor was a guy named Lou Riggs. Okay, he's passed away. Great guy. He taught me a lot. Learned a lot from him. He was, and I remember I was just first working with him. And he's going over some stuff and he's telling me, okay, you need to do this better, or you need to do this better, you need to do that better. But he's like, don't be disheartened, 80% of people who are on the air right now shouldn't be on the air, So I laugh, I just met this guy, I don't know, it was years later when I'm working, right? Or having dinner or something, and I go, Lou, when I first met you and you told me 80% of the people shouldn't be in you were kidding, right? And he says to me, no. It's actually 90%, but I didn't want to discourage you. So I think you and Lou would get along if he was still around. You and Lou would probably get along because stuff, he gets driven crazy by people don't know how to hold a microphone. He's like, if you watch whatever it is, sports, news, what entertainment, there's a way you're supposed to hold a microphone and nobody holds a microphone right. You know who holds the microphone correctly? Game show hosts. Go watch an old episode of Card Sharks or go watch Joker's Wild. Those guys, Alan Ludden and Jim Perry, they hold the mic correctly. So those are the videos. And with YouTube, there's no excuse, right? You can go watch those old shows. I love watching like old Jack Benny shows.
You open this up, Ben.
All right.
Old Letterman, Letterman when he would go host game shows, like you can learn the style. Carson, of course, is a great sample.
Gene Rayburn.
Don't spill any of that on the wires. We'll all be electrocuted. There's a lot of wires here, Ben. But
so, while he's open, I want to give you this gift. It's a hat from Say Less Apparel, and there's a story behind that hat. What better gift for a podcast host than a hat that says Say Less? So the company came out in 2016, right?
Funny.
Yeah. In 2016, the company came out, right? And that was going to be their bellwether hat.
I'm going to make America great. Can I take
Well, and that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
That was going to be their bellwether hat. That's when the MAGA hats came out. So they changed the color. I think now it's black and gray, but that is a old collector's item for you, Brian.
That's actually really cool.
And it's a great. I mean, it's a great company. It's funny. What happened was one of the guys who started the company, he is involved in professional sports, so he was overseas. He went to like Finland for a year to do a project, and then he came back and realized, we're not going to be able to sell any of these red hats. We got to change the color. So boom. But anyway, that's one of the originals off the assembly line, made in the United States, great material and whatever. I mean, I don't know. You don't wear hats, so maybe you could put it on the set somewhere. And then when a guest gets annoying like me and Ben, you can just point to the hat and say
less.
Say less. Let Brian talk.
Well, let me give you something then. How about a little keychain?
Oh, bless you. I heard Holtzman.
Would you like and a button?
Oh, beautiful.
Would you like a keychain?
You bet.
Do you mind if I give it to you? I don't know how many I have, Ben, and
I'll always see you, so
can
it's
I?
okay.
Can I?
When
Can
you
I?
get
No,
another batch.
I think
when
I have.
You get another batch.
No, I think I can.
No. Save
You're
it.
right. Maybe
Save it.
No,
Save it.
No, you can. No, I have another one, Ben. It's okay. And
Pass that over.
so
to
broadcasting is fascinating, huh?
There you go, Brian. It is. It's great. I mean, it's fun. I mean, you're diving in with both feet, the podcast game, and
Well, I fortunately, Redban gave me the opportunity to do this. Up to this point, I hadn't done anything.
Is it true it's your birthday today?
August 30th.
So good that you smoke, Brian, because we could use some.
Well, I don't think we have to light the candles. Do you want to light the candles?
Well, just one. You need one at least, right? Do you want a yellow or blue?
a man doesn't turn 29 every day, Brian Holtzman.
Thank you, Ben.
Sure. Take one and pass it.
Pass one over to Redban.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, look at this.
Wow.
Man.
There you go. You
Thank you.
bet.
Jeez, I'll have to walk 2 hours tomorrow. Oh, my word. This is a diabetic dream right now. I'm hoping they're going to cut both my feet off after eating this. I just want to be a diabetic so bad. I just want to be like everybody else on my block. If you don't have diabetics, you're not an American. Go ahead. This is the dead air portion of the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Ben is lighting the candle for Brian's birthday cupcake.
All righty. Day to
There you go.
Happy birthday.
Too bad they closed that, what was that island?
Epstein Island?
Yeah, too bad. We could have just flown off and gotten the jet and went to the island for the weekend for my birthday.
Dead air brought to you by QAnon. Yeah.
What is that? I see that a lot. Can somebody explain to me what that is? And maybe some of our listeners don't know what it is either. What is this QAnon? Anybody?
It's a movement similar to the Tea. It's a political movement similar to the Tea Party. And there's a bunch. You'll learn a lot about it in the next election cycle because there's a bunch of QAnon people running for Congress. It's a splinter off on the Republican Party. It's a bit of a splinter who think the Republican Party isn't Republican enough, and they have their issues. Big one is the Epstein issue.
Wow.
They're the ones that are kind of pushing the pizza joint being a underground.
Yeah, it's a bunch
smuggling.
of conspiracy theorists.
Right.
And it's almost like it started on a message board as a joke. People are taking it too serious. Oh, my God. Choked on a sprinkle.
That's really frightening.
Okay. Residents of Paterson, New Jersey were puzzled when an emu ran through their densely populated streets with one alarmed citizen telling police she'd seen a creature from outer space.
Wow.
Animal control authorities were also stumped by the 5-foot-tall bird native to Australia.
Now, Paterson, where it is, there are a couple of zoos in the area. I mean, Bronx Zoo, obviously, but there's the Turtleback Zoo. I don't know if they had an emu. Ever had an emu at the Turtleback Zoo. So
Maybe they were filming an insurance commercial.
there you go.
Yeah.
Those commercials.
The animals, come on, I'm an adult, all right? I'm an adult. I have sex. I have a job. I have a mortgage. Do I really want to sign a check to an animal?
Obviously, it works. They keep doing it.
I know.
It works.
It works. America's like, in one hand, they're like, they're the most, I don't even know how to explain it.
I mean, I think we all overstate our sophistication a little bit,
Who can explain Americans today? I know, I can't. I'm 48 years. I've never seen an emu, Officer John DeCandro. But I can tell you this one needs a bath. Yeah, they're animals. The only time animals are good is on television or in the movies. In real life, not pet animals, but wild animals. They're like homeless people. They're the dirtiest. Imagine never showering, never shaving, never wiping your butt, never doing anything. And these are what wild animals are. They're just like homeless people. They're pigs.
But this one's an emu, though. So
yeah.
But I guess we don't in the city. We don't deal with it as much. Maybe we do, but they're the people who insist on having these exotic animals. I remember in the 90s when I was in college. I remember people wanted like ferrets, where it's a big deal to have a ferret as a pet, and it just became a thing. People like wanting why would you want
a rat? Why do I want a rat in the house?
There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's got some.
I wonder where that damn thing came from. Look at it. It looks like it wants arms. It wants arms so bad. How come I only have 2 feet? Where are my arms?
Look, he's wearing a little sweater.
You were asking me about voiceover earlier. So years ago, I was doing this voice. I was doing an audio book, and it was up in Rolling Hills, kind of that Palos Verdes area. And they have peacocks there. So it's a very similar situation to this, except it was more suburban. Guy had the studio in his house, right? So I pull up, I get out, and it's really early in the morning. He's like to start at the crack of dawn. And I go to walk in the main office door, and there's I nearly stepped on a peacock up there in Rolling Hills. So I guess there was some kind of an exchange between a city in Iran and Southern California, and they sent a bunch of peacocks over, and they got loose in Palos Verdes, Rolling Hills area, and some have interbred with other birds. So you have the traditional peacocks out there in Rolling Hills, and they make wild noises at night, apparently.
Yeah, they're out there screwing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
But
like cats.
there's
Come
some
out at night and have sex.
There's some that look like that, Brian, and there are others that are like a weird kind of. I saw this one; it was like gray. It almost looked like the vulture on from a cartoon when you were a kid, because it had been interbred with other birds, other species of birds. Yeah,
They have them up in Pasadena, right?
Yeah.
South Pass.
I went to the Playboy Mansion, and Hugh collected peacocks or something like that. There's just hundreds of peacocks on the Playboy Mansion lawn, like in the trees. Just you see all these peacocks just sitting in trees and stuff. It's great.
Now, when you're going down Sunset heading west, where is that place?
Like you go past all the stores and stuff like that.
Right.
And
Sunset Plaza.
Yeah, it's down like maybe half mile past that, and you'll just see this weird road on the side where there's some houses, and you just go in there, and
So it's relatively close to the Sunset Strip, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I never made it there. But they, I think they made it a historical site that they can't tear it down.
Some guys remodeling it and stuff. It was pretty cool. The game room, where all the pinball machines and stuff were. The ground, when I got in there, I was like, wait, this floor feels weird. It was carpeted floor, and it was a mattress. The floor was a mattress.
Wow. So you could just get busy any place you wanted in the house, just like your own house, but more comfortable. Yeah, animals are smelly creatures. They really are. They're very smelly creatures. They look
People bring animals where they shouldn't. That was the whole thing with the peacocks, right?
on airplanes.
Your comfort. You're not a fan of comfort animals, Brian?
No, rent a car.
I'm not.
Rent a car if you're a psycho and you can't be alone.
When there was the westward migration after the Dust Bowl from Oklahoma, a lot of the farmers came out here to the Inland Empire. Like Riverside, San Bernardino, that area. They bought pigs with them. So now, if you go to the Norco Basin, it's like overrun with pigs. You can actually, I don't know if either of you guys are hunters. If you're bow hunters, you can actually legally hunt wild boar with a bow.
I only hunt endangered species.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so you won't be interested in this, but you can go and you can't use a rifle because you can't shoot a rifle off in the Norco, whatever city limits. But there's bow hunters who go hunt wild boar in Norco.
Yeah, in Texas, you can rent a helicopter and just sit there and hunt feral pigs with a helicopter, like out the window.
Which is a good thing because they got a population problem over there with those pigs. There's too many of them.
But it's becoming that way in Norco
they're like
too.
rabbits and Irish people. They can't stop having sex.
And I guess it was funny. A player I covered, he was a big bow hunter, and he was telling me about all this stuff. And he was telling me that when they get big, he was saying some of these get up to like 300-400 pounds, and their sight is really bad, but they have a really keen sense of smell. So they'll come charging at you, and you got to get real close, obviously, to hunt them. And he said, like, he'll bring, he's an experienced like a bow hunter, but he'll bring friends with him who think, oh, it's just kind of day out in the wilderness, and they don't realize how close you have to get, and it freaks them out. But it's just a different kind of cat to go and hunt boar in the greater Norco Basin.
So do they shoot from up above, or they just take them to where they are?
They shoot from above. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They got too many of them. They got too many. They got to thin the herd.
You seem to think that way about a lot of things, Brian.
No, I don't. The guest last week did. No, about these. About this stuff.
That gets you in trouble?
No, I did. I let it go.
Okay.
But one of the listeners wasn't too happy. They thought I was somewhat negligent by not challenging him to his opinions. But what am I going to do? It's, I'm not going to try to change his mind. You can't change his mind. Maybe I should have just thrown him out of here.
No, you should do, Brian, is you should become Facebook friends with him and then pound him with articles on Facebook in hopes they'll change his mind.
Yeah, I said, what happens if someone in your own family died? How would you feel then? He was like,
that's a fair question.
He said, well, so what? Well, that's it. What are we going to do? I don't know.
Brian, did you want to?
Oh, okay.
Look, there it is. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
And here's another one. A Maryland family calmly had lunch with a bear after it nonchalantly wandered over to their picnic table, sat down, and began helping itself to their food. Caitlin Netsbit, 29, admitted she was scared to death, even while a male relative suggested they bring the female bear some peanut butter and even playfully tapped on her on the nose. It's not my fault she scratches you, Nibbit said to the man in a video shot by other family members. The bear ate and left. This is in
Well, that's good.
Maryland. They have bears in Maryland?
Didn't overstay his welcome.
It's the grizzly bears that you have to watch out for. Black bears, I don't think too much of a problem.
Yeah, there's like a difference between black bears, brown bears in behavior. I think if you spot one in the wild.
I feel like I don't want to agree with you, but you being a black man, I shouldn't really argue about your opinion of black bears. You probably know a lot about black bears being a black guy, right?
Yeah. But no, this was camping training.
So are you from the conservative Denver or the liberal Denver?
God, there was, I guess, a pretty liberal overall. I mean,
How old were you when you came to California?
I was 20.
Started doing comedy?
Yeah. So what I'm thinking, they had a longtime representative, Pat Schroeder, was Denver stronghold and national fixture, and Gary Hart, liberal senator, probably if he, kept his mouth shut about, you can follow me anywhere, I'm pretty boring, he would probably be president. Well, I don't know if he would have gotten president. He would have gotten the nomination. Looked like a lock.
They were both lampooned on Saturday Night Live too. Both Pat Schroeder and Gary Hart. I forgot who played Gary Hart, but
I like the dye number 5. I think in these cupcakes are real good.
Right.
That's definitely going to really spike up the thyroid cancer and everything else. I just love the chemicals. You get so many chemicals you don't ask for in America. It's just wonderful. Yeah, it's just wonderful.
Although it didn't seem as divided. Well, it definitely didn't seem as divided politically as it is today.
there was no internet back then, though.
Yeah, and I think we were all united in our hate of Texans. I think that came in and screwed up the ski slopes and couldn't drive in the winter. Pretty much.
I didn't realize Coloradans were that provincial. They seem like they're just very nice people.
Could be. They could get kind of territorial and snooty about that.
Well, it's like when they took down the Berlin Wall, and you were West German. All of a sudden, you had all these East Germans running around in parkas in the middle of the summer.
They're really good skaters. They're really good skaters, though, Brian.
Everybody was happy the wall came down unless you were a West German. You said like, oh, come on. You're going to take the wall down? I'm going to have all these clowns coming in here? A rare earthquake in North Carolina brought scripture to life for frightened churchgoers. At a lecture on the outdoor Sunday Mass, St. Gabriel's Catholic Church had just reached a Bible passage in which the prophet Elijah intoned after the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. When the magnitude 5.1 quake shook the building, Father Corey Cortund, pastor of a nearby Catholic mission, said the quake made for a good homily material.
Like a good comic. Everything's material, right?
I thought you were going to say you shouldn't have read that.
Why?
No.
That was total bullshit.
Is it?
Do not inject religion into this podcast.
No. Inject all the religion you want into the podcast. Your name's on it.
God, you got a great voice, man.
Thank you.
Should hear him do baseball and basketball. Baseball is primary.
He's not a fan, though. Brian's not a fan. He said.
No, I'm a fan. I like sports. I can't go toe-to-toe with a real sports enthusiast. That's all. You know it. When you talk to somebody about sports, you have to go back and banter back and forth. Otherwise, it's just like, you can't keep up. I just can't keep up. I don't know all the name of the Dodgers. Do you know all the name of the Dodgers?
No.
I
You
don't
know all
either.
the...
I don't either.
I don't know all the positions they play and their averages and their family and their wife and their mistress and their girlfriend. And I mean,
That's tough.
I mean, you can't go to some. Most guys that's all they really know is sports. That's it. It's not about the rubber ball. They could give a flying F.
The funny thing is that.
Do you agree?
Well, the complaint people get is sometimes sports guys. The more successful you are, the less you talk about sports. Does that make any sense?
Hey, what happened to that guy that was on the TV? Rome is Burning. What happened to Rome is Burning?
Yeah, there's a great example.
Where is he now?
He's still on the radio, but not in L.A.
What happened to him?
He doesn't
He was
like.
great.
Yeah, he doesn't. He made a deal with a syndicator that couldn't get him on in L.A.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
What a nightmare!
Yeah, he's with I think CBS Sports Radio. That CBS Sports Radio has no affiliate in Los Angeles, so you can't hear him. And it's really funny because the guy lives in L.A.
Yeah,
and it's funny. There was an article about a year ago in the L.A. Times. The guy profiled him because he's from L.A. Went to college at Santa Barbara. He worked in San Diego for many years, and so he'll be walking at his office. Somebody say, "Hey, Rome, where you been?" And he's like, "I'm working harder now than I've ever worked." but nobody in LA knows that I'm working because my show's not on in LA. It's the cool irony.
So he took the money and then got the inconvenience of not being in LA. Do you think he should have just been happy, stayed on TV, and been in LA?
Well, no, I just think there's some programmer. I mean, some programmer in LA should put him on the air. That's what I think. It's a built-in audience.
Yeah, I like the way he talks about sports. He makes it.
It's different. Yeah, it's different.
More interesting.
There are other guys who do the same thing though.
Christian football, and he was an offensive player.
No, I like watching. I don't have
total yards and all.
Is that you?
I think he's one of 3 players tied for the all-time lead in touchdowns. 69 touchdowns in 3 varsity seasons at Ontario Christian.
This is old school.
We'll talk about that a little bit. I talked to Matt Hoekstra about it, and he said, well, he's a great offensive mind, and he knows defenses. The penalty is whistled against Ontario.
If I was announcing this game, I'd be like, the one on the end there. Yeah, the one with the ball. The number 5. No, 51. No, 51. Yeah. What is it a first down? No, you got to be precise. You got to be precise.
The first football game I ever did on television. Okay, so I'm nervous. I'm a radio guy, right? And the first football game I ever did on TV, so it's a high school football game. So the crowd is right up to the broadcast booth. And a guy's returning a kick for a touchdown. But as he's doing it, somebody in the stands has a heart attack, right? So I'm barely like trying to keep it together. And this woman who's in front of my press box starts waving her arms, like impeding my view. And like, what the? I'm thinking, is she upset because they're scoring a touchdown on her son's team? And then I learned that there's a guy collapsed down in front. So I'm like, all right, wait a minute. Is anybody watching this game going to be able to get to this guy? So anyway, long story short, there was a doctor. Obviously, there's a doctor at every game. They got to the guy. They revived him and everything. But it was a bizarre way to start my career. The first thing I ever called. It's an exciting play. It's a touchdown. And then some poor guy has a heart attack, and that becomes the story.
I just hope that they ban that guy from ever coming to the stadium again.
You know, it's interesting. I've been at 3.
To have a heart attack and ruin everybody's day, you know?
Yeah.
It's like people that have heart attacks at weddings, you know, they just ruin the whole wedding.
It's their ego.
Yeah. Yeah. Unchecked ego.
Well, we went to that.
Didn't the basketball owner of the Lakers have a heart attack at somebody's wedding?
We went to that Dodgers-Mets game, and somebody went out on the field. Brett Butler makes this amazing catch, and somebody went out on the field in between innings, shook his hand.
And they shot him to death.
No, then they brought her off, and then there was like this parade. You would thought it was like a vice president or something with all the Secret Service going through, and they escort her out, and who knows what kind of...
But I tell you... part of the reason I like sports is there's a degree of order to sports, right? You could go, I mean, this is Burbank, but like you can go to Culver City Park right now and there's 10 guys and you can play a basketball game and there's no issue with anybody following we all follow the rules and, people get upset at little things, but for the most part, rationality wins, right? Because there's always that one guy who's got to call every foul, but nobody likes him, so it's cool, right? You're all kind of brothers without him. And I look at various rituals. You go watch football teams warm up or watch batting practice, and there's no hard and fast rules, right? But everybody keeps it moving along, right? Everybody's like, all right, Brian gets his 6 swings, and then Brian gets his 6 swings, and then Ben gets his swings, and then I get mine, and then we do it all over again. I mean, there's a degree of, and I think people kind of miss that a little bit in their own lives, and that's kind of what gravitates them towards sports. Now, maybe some people don't like that, and then you gravitate to professional wrestling. It's totally different, right? There are no rules, and even the rules that exist aren't enforced. But there's Vince Scully always used to say there's like an ecumenical quality to baseball about, instead of going to church, you go to the ballpark.
Say that word again.
Ecumenical.
Dynamite.
I mean, it's Vince Scully. I stole it from Vince Scully, so.
Yeah, I like to go into the night games. I don't like the day games because you burn up.
Day games are tough, yeah.
You burn up.
Yeah.
Especially if it goes in extra innings. You're like, oh, my God. You want to take the redheaded stepchild out to the car and just slap the shit out of him.
Well, so you'll like the new rules then because it's easy now. The games end now.
And I think they should serve beer the whole freaking time. Stop in the 7th inning.
Are you the guy in the 7th inning that comes back with a whole tray of beer?
I mean, why make the game 7 innings then? If you're going to stop selling beer in the 7th inning, just end the freaking game. So just end the game.
I cover college sports, right?
Is it because they don't have enough beer, or they just want to make sure they can't sell too much?
People are driving, probably why they do it. But if San Luis Obispo, okay, Cal State San Luis Obispo, or Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, they just refurbished their baseball stadium, right? They spent like $13 million to refurbish it, and they put a video out and everything. You know, it's funny. I bring it up because your comment. Somebody on Twitter goes, "Hey, it looks great and everything. You guys are still going to sell beer, right?" Because they sell beer there. That was his question. He just wanted to make sure. Great new stadium. We love it. It looks great. As long as you're still selling beer, I'm still coming. So
that's funny. I had a friend who he had kids, of course, and he never went to McDonald's once in his whole life with his kids. I said, Why didn't you go to McDonald's ever in your whole life with your kids? He said, because they don't sell beer.
I kind of wonder if they are more parking lot incidents and more drunk incidents in the stands because everyone's tailgating so much and slamming so much. Like that's always been a ritual, but because now the beer is like so expensive that you have to, you know, your pregame is not just, hey, I'll have a one or two. Man. You're gonna have like 4 or 5 because like once you get inside, you can only have one, and you want that buzz to last the whole game. I think.
I've seen a guy in New York at Shea Stadium. I don't forget what maybe a baseball game, could have been a football game. This guy was, I guess they were started a fight, and then they ran after him, and he flipped over the railing, landed on his back, and he just got up and started running some more.
So you
don't care. You know, anybody else would have said it. I'm not getting up from this.
So you're from New York, so you'll understand
Long
this.
Island, yeah.
So you know, as a kid, my parents, you know, immigrant parents, very strict, right? But sports were okay, right? So my next door neighbor, his dad's company had Yankees tickets. He's like, we're going to go to the Yankee game. So my brother's younger than me. So we're like 13, 14 years old, sitting in the left field stands at Yankee Stadium. You know, and this is back when the Yankees weren't good. So every degenerate drunk is sitting there, and it's the greatest thing in the world, right? We're just in this section surrounded by all these intoxicated people swearing at the players, swearing at each other, fighting each other. It was the greatest experience ever. And then we're watching the baseball game, obviously. But like today, no parent would ever let their kid go to that kind of atmosphere now.
I know.
You know, and it's just, you learn things.
You go to Dodger game, what's his name? The coach, the old coach.
Lasorda.
He goes on the big board and he tells people how to act at the game, tells them they can't curse, they can't use bad language. It's just like, yeah, it's like when they cleaned up 42nd Street in New York City. It was just a fascinating place to be. Now it's stuffed animals from Disney.
It's Disneyland.
Yeah, it's just like the watering down of the culture, you know. You got to have a red light district. Without a red light district, where do all the single guys go? You know, where are all the guys going through a divorce or a nasty breakup? It's ludicrous. Say that one.
Yeah.
Say that.
Ludicrous? No.
Ludicrous.
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 As many as the nation's schools go viral, nearly 17 million children live in homes without high-speed internet service, and more than 7 million lack computers, according to a report by the computer people. Wow.
That's a big problem.
Why is it?
Well, so I'll tell you I cover high school sports. So I'm I do a high school football package with Fox Sports. And so CIF is moving their season. They're going to have it in January, normally we'd be doing games right now. I have a friend who's a coach and a teacher out in Riverside, and their student population is about 1,800 people. Okay. And it's a lower socioeconomic school. So a lot of kind of first generation, you know, kids there. And he was telling me last year that about 30% when they went remote, about 30% of the school population was unaccounted for, because a lot of kids, you know, some of the parents took the kids out of school, you know, back to where their families were, whether in Mexico, wherever that may be. And others, like you're reading there, didn't have access to computers or didn't have internet at home. And there was no way to get a hold of, you know, they're sending mail. And what's interesting is, so they're back in school now, and he's telling me the numbers are worse. Like it's a horrible thing is, as for educators, they haven't been able to track these students because you lose them in the spring. And you don't, you know, you're just sending mail to the same addresses, but you're not able to track them down unless you actually physically go there, and it's a problem. And, some areas remote learning is working. But when you consider that there's so many families, like you were reading, without access to internet at home, that's really disturbing as these schools are forced to go remote. I mean, 18, like he said, 500 out of 1,800, that's almost 30% of the kids that are unaccounted for, that they don't know. Hey, are you coming back? Are you not coming back? They haven't turned in an assignment since March.
It's a big can of worms, yeah. I don't know.
Management issues.
And logistics issues, infrastructure issues.
Yeah.
And income issues. I mean, it's the whole gamut. It's like everything. A giant panda at Washington's National Zoo is pregnant and will soon give birth, zookeepers announced this week. Panda matriarch Menkang King, who was impregnated by artificial insemination. Imagine that, being a panda, and now you're pregnant and you didn't even have any sex. The woman is probably just saying, I didn't sign up for this. Why is America so terribly fucked up? Is 22 years old and would be the oldest panda to birth in the U.S.
Wow.
She doesn't even know what she's doing. She's wondering what's going on with her body. It's a nightmare. She should be able to go down to an abortion clinic maybe and say, listen, I don't want this panda.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
I always wonder about that with animals. How much do they really know, right? They probably know a lot more than we think they know, right?
Oh, yes, for sure. They're as sophisticated they're more sophisticated some of the clowns walking around 2 feet.
Some years ago, I did a basketball tournament out in Cancun. And so the resort was right on the border of this jungle where they were like monkeys. So monkeys would walk back and forth. And it was like, so I'm walking to the dinner or something, and this monkey's kind of in front of me. And it's like, he's almost like he was like cock blocking me, right? Like every time I would speed up, he would slow down to like make me go around him. It was real alpha male energy going on there. I'm like, you know what? This guy is way more sophisticated than I'm giving him credit for, It's a little monkey, like 3 feet tall monkey. Give it attitude.
So you're busy. You're going everywhere to do this.
Not recent, not since March. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's fun. Yeah. It's you brought up the COVID thing. I was telling Ben this driving in. I was on a plane pretty much every week from November to February when this thing was incubating. So I'm very thankful that I never got sick or
you
or
could
picked
have
it
been,
up. Travel was a big way people were picking it up. I was confused.
1 out of 4 Americans between 18 and 24 said they've considered suicide during the pandemic, according to a survey by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Among respondents of all ages, 40% reported suffering from mental or behavioral health issues related to the pandemic, including anxiety, depression, and stress disorders. Wow. Settle down. Settle down.
I want to make a joke, but it's suicide, so I don't want to jump in there. But there's a lot of.
Well, I'm curious is it mainly related to financial security, or are they afraid they're getting sick, or
anxiety covers the whole gamut?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to know. I'm curious as to know what any like
a person who has anxiety. If it's not one thing, it's going to be another. They'll find another thing to be anxiety about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think I don't know if everybody carries that level of angst.
Well, there's different levels of anxiety, Ben, of course.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
That movie
what is driving the anxiety up?
There's that comedy. What's that comedy with anxiety?
High anxiety.
Now there's high anxiety, right? The movie. And then there's low anxiety. last week on the podcast, we had high anxiety.
I was watching the basketball yesterday, and Paul George, came out and said he was dealing with depression issues and whatnot. So
Paul George
of the Clippers, the player for the Clippers.
See?
Yeah.
He doesn't know. He's a very good player.
But so
Oh, there he is. He's
the great Mel Brooks. The high anxiety, they were talking about, I was reading articles related to it. So, you go into a wormhole, right? They talk about Paul George having depression, and then there was articles that were attached to it about depression and anxiety. So I guess a phenomenon among the pandemic is if you're depressed. So there are people that have this depression anxiety duality, right? So, the pandemic sucks, right? People are unemployed. People don't have money. There's nothing going on. So people spend the day depressed, and then when they go to try to sleep, the anxiety kicks in. And that's apparently like a really bad health thing, because like all of a sudden, all day you're depressed and you're unproductive, you're unable to do anything, and then you try to go to sleep and you can't sleep because the anxiety kicks in.
double whammy.
And then, man, that's hard. I mean, it's harsh.
Yeah.
Does not sound pleasant. The great Mel Brooks.
Yeah, I guess anxiety is a nice word for these people are driving themselves crazy. Ben, would you agree with that? They're literally driving themselves crazy.
Right. Although I'm not sure how much it's self-induced.
There you go, opening up another can of worms. You see that way he opens up a can of worms?
Well, you just asked if I agreed.
Always self-induced. You're the only one in control of your mind. It's your mind. You got to control it.
Okay.
You got to control your own mind.
Right.
What if you can't? What if it's out of control?
Well, then you have to go to a mental hospital. I don't know. Have
All right.
a family member check you in. Or go suicide by cop. I don't know. Do something. Go down to the local law enforcement office and pretend that you're going to
I
do
didn't
something.
choose to have anxiety.
Do you have anxiety, Ben?
No. Only 20 minutes before I got here, knowing what I was walking into.
All right, this one's for Redban. I always find one for Redban. The Chinese phone maker ZTE appears to be the first company ready to launch a phone with an under-display camera, said so-and-so and so-and-so. The innovation represents a breakthrough for smartphone designers who have been testing prototypes for phones that include a front camera hidden beneath the screen. For more than a year, companies have been moving towards smartphones with edge-to-edge screens that offer clearer visuals for streaming movies or gaming. Some manufacturers, including Levizos, have introduced selfie cameras that pop up from the side of the phone. But an under-display camera is a more elegant solution with moving parts inside the phone. Wow.
Yeah.
Redban will explain all this after I'm done. Leaked images of ZTE's Axion 20 5G, which is expected to launch in China in September, show a perfectly smooth OLED display which conceals a 32 megapixel front camera. Go ahead, Redban. What are we talking about?
Well, the phones have the notches nowadays. Like if your front phone has a notch, this company found a way to put a camera underneath the screen so you don't have the notch on the phone anymore in the front. But I can't see that being as good of resolution or as one that's not under the screen. So that's what we need to see, is how good is the resolution, because it still has to take a photo through a screen, which seems like that's not even possible.
As opposed to just, how good can a picture be if it's through something else?
Right.
As opposed to just being on the surface.
Yeah.
Wow.
All this stuff kind of scares me a little bit. Those 5G conspiracy theories have kind of won me over now. No. I want no part of the 5G, man. No. I want no part of that.
No, Redban says that it's baseless.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's fake.
I don't know. The 5G.
Well, tell him
worries me.
tell Redban what your
the
your
5G,
concerns are,
right?
and he'll tell you.
Okay, I don't believe this Bill Gates is trying to inject me with a microchip. I'm not that. But the 5G, from what I understand, is it can seep into the brains of animals like bears and apes and stuff. And they'll be as intelligent as we are, and then we will be overtaken.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
It was good while it lasted. Sorry, Brian.
No, that's kind of. I've heard some far-fetched things, but that's pretty out there.
No, I mean, I can't. And that's what sucks kind of now is with all these conspiracy. I can't keep up now. I used to love these things. There's so many now, you can't keep track.
Your friends are like, okay, you get along good with your friends, you talk to them on the phone, you think everything's just fine. And then they start watching this Netflix. It's got these conspiracies. They've got, not conspiracies, documentaries on conspiracy theories on Netflix or wherever they get their information.
Right.
And all of a sudden you talk to them and they're not the same people. They've got all these crazy ideas. As far as I'm concerned, it's a health issue. It's an epidemic, period.
Right.
Just like grandma's got arthritis, period. But they want to tell you a lot more.
Well, but I think it's generational, right? I mean, generationally, you grow up, like my mom tells me something, I check 2 sources, right? And now it's just any little bit of information, it just goes, whether it's true or false, just flies through.
They're even attacking Black Lives Matter. They're saying the leaders are trying to do this and they don't want any more single family homes in America.
Right.
And they're against family unit. And that it's just crazy.
Right. Well,
although that, you know
what I'm talking about, Ben?
Yeah, but
what is that all about?
But that's been around forever, though. I mean, any type of black organization is going to be targeted and discredited
and tried to water down,
or just like same thing for SNCC and CORE and some of the civil rights groups at NAACP. It was all just whatever kind of disinformation they could have, just to give people a chance to feel, justified in continuing their racism. So, but then if you put it, if you frame it in a different sort, like, oh, they're communists, or oh, they're separate, whatever you want to frame it as. It's all George Soros, and
they mention George Soros all the time. They mention, what about black on black crime all the time?
Right, just
anything to lessen the main goal, the main thing.
And then,
and I wouldn't stand for it.
Right,
I just yes them to death. I don't even. if that's what they think, I'm not going to argue with them on the phone.
Right, you can't argue with. There's some people you can't argue.
What about all the looting? Shit's gonna break, all right? I can't help it. I'm not happy that they lost their business, but I'm not gonna detract from the main issue because a couple of stores got burnt down.
All right.
I'm just not gonna do it. And people get angry, shit's gonna get broken. Simple as that. I mean, if you get mad at your wife, you might break a few dishes. You might ask her to step out. Teenagers and young adults who use e-cigarettes are up to 7 times more likely to be infected with the coronavirus than their non-vaping peers. New research suggests Stanford University researchers surveyed some 4,300 13 to 24-year-olds for the first nationwide study into the connection between vaping and COVID-19 in young people. Those who had used e-cigarettes, okay, fine.
See, that to me, that's generational, right?
What?
It'd also be hard to.
What do you mean by a generational for the vaping?
Well, no, COVID, right? Because it's habits. It's habits that you go about, and maybe there's a little bit less. Maybe the people who are vaping are a little less inhibited in terms of what they do,
right.
But it's very similar behaviors.
And this is a big one. This is a real big one. This is the song just last 3 minutes said so and so and so and so, but in the summer that's been hopelessly devoid of crowd-pleasing spectacle, Cardi B and Megan 3 Stallions' new single and music video are the closest thing we have to a new Avengers movie. A raunchy celebration of female sexual prowess and pleasure. WAP, W-A-P, became an instant #1 Billboard hit, recognized by the New York Times as almost certainly the most graphic and explicit ever to reach the top. And of course, the song and video triggered a mini cultural war. One Republican congressional candidate tweeted, "The lyrics made me want to pour holy water in my ears." Another wrote that Cardi and Meg had set the entire female gender back by 100 years. Man, what's going on? I didn't see it.
This is a senator said this?
Yeah, your politicians.
But see, politicians traditionally have horrible taste in music anyway.
Yeah,
I don't worry about it.
Wow, is this it? Is this it, Redban? I haven't seen this. Look at this. Those nails will scratch you. Please, you got to put gloves on them. tape pillows around it when you have sex. They'll cut you, those nails. Look at this. This is going to set us back 100 years.
All right. So the lyrics you'd have to hear. They're
worse than like.
Yes.
I can see your head bobbing.
Oh yeah.
Beat it up, baby, catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this cookie right in your face. So you know it's like a
Well, I guess it's the downfall of the culture. I don't know.
But they've been saying that forever, right?
Downfall of the culture.
Heavy metal is going to cause the downfall. Then it was punk rock. Then it was the hip hop.
Just rock and roll to begin with.
They tried to arrest the dead Kennedys. Remember the Senate tried, or California tried to arrest the dead Kennedys.
2 Live Crew.
Right.
Uncle Luke
Did get arrested.
Uncle Luke got arrested many times, and it's interesting because I think the DA who went after him hard ended up getting busted for like bribery or corruption or something, and Luke's still in Miami doing good things for the people. So
Yeah, what comes around goes around.
power to Uncle Luke.
Look at Bill Cosby yelling at all the people for not having good family life and how this now, and he's out there knocking women out with heavy narcotics and putting on his dress.
All
shirt.
lies, Brian. All lies. No.
Okay, we've got an Unhinged, a new movie by Russell Crowe. Is it Russell Crowe?
I think so.
Unhinged. But today, this statistic yet melding road rage thriller is arriving in theaters at the first week. Okay.
Come on, man. Go!
She made the mistake of beeping her horn at Russell Crowe. And now for the rest of her life, Russell Crowe is going to make her life
Oh, wow. Ooh.
bad.
This is like Cape Fear. Like De Niro in Cape Fear.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what a curse to tap is, young man? Sounds like this. It's life.
Cool. I didn't know about this movie. Gotta check this out.
It says, this middling creative stuff and director also delivers solid car chases and crashes, but after pretending to have something to say about our stressful times, Unhinged reveals itself to be about as deep as a second-tier Halloween movie. If you try to psychoanalyze the main character, you're wasting your time, said so-and-so and so-and-so. The carnage is the point here. And Border and Crow bring it to a suitably furious head. Some movies just want you to watch the world preferably on a very big screen.
Well, hopefully that's not a huge hit because I was thinking that would be a great title. That'd be a great title for a Brian Holtzman Netflix special. Brian Holtzman Unhinged. That'd be a great title.
Right.
Drink, 85 cents. You pay or go.
A little too far.
I stay.
You mean you stole your baseball bat, but he paid for the soda?
Just standing up for my rights. As a consumer.
Oh, this guy's discriminating.
What kind of vigilante are you? I am just trying to get home for my little girl's birthday. Give us your briefcase. If everybody will stay out of my way. Here, you want a briefcase? Here's my briefcase.
Now, is this the one where he goes and they stop serving breakfast and he wants breakfast? Is that the one?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Holtzman playing this character.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That was the problem.
Sequel, baby. Sequel.
He wasn't. Michael Douglas was too calm throughout it.
Right now, and he's heading west. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there's other people waiting to use the phone here. Now, if you go up against this guy, be careful.
Think it's out of order. Somebody in a white shirt and tie gunned down a phone with $3 in the whammy burger.
It's not a good advertisement for the LAPD that
No,
he
no.
can walk around the whole city for the whole day and just...
Well, that's
There's a Ford Pinto.
Yeah.
Oh, Joel Schumacher.
I think you're just trying to justify your inflated budgets.
Well, I guess so.
I'll give you something to fix.
What are you... Hey, Charlie!
I gotta watch this movie.
Hey,
again.
now.
I gotta watch this movie again. Have you seen this movie?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, yeah.
So,
There it is. Breakfast at Whammy Burger. That was the scene I remembered.
Now, this is the first time that we've talked about an automobile. Ever since March 11th, there was no talk of automobiles. And this is the first one. This is the Chevrolet Trailblazer 2021, $19,000. Chevrolet's new subpack crossover might be 2020's most unexpected hit. The reborn Trailblazer, whose nameplate last appeared a decade ago on a 3-row SUV, has been flying off dealer lots, clocking a faster delivery to sale time during COVID than any other vehicle in America. Credit a combination of looks, features, and comfort that only Mazda matches in this segment. And Chevy's entry also offers best-in-class rear cargo room.
I do like that two-tone roof, though. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Are these? Because I haven't. Normally, you'd see these on the streets of L.A. Right? I haven't seen many of these on the streets of L.A.
Yeah, I see more Teslas.
Right.
Oh man, Tesla's taking over. I really feel bad for Chevrolet because there's Chevy Volt. I mean, you just see them, but you don't see a lot of them. You just every once in a, you could be out in a week and maybe see one Chevy Volt. That's how. And that was supposed to be saving that whole company. I don't know.
There's Tesla's got this mystique. Like, remember they had the showroom at Santa Monica on the promenade for a few years, and
Redban has a Tesla.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a few years ago before they were really readily available. Was my cousin came out from Montreal. He's an attorney. They had a conference in L.A. and he came to Santa Monica. And the one thing he wanted to go take a Tesla for. That was his big because you couldn't do it even in the big city where he was from. So it was, and that's when I kind of realized, okay, this is going to be a big thing. I should have bought stock back then, but I didn't.
Oh man, you and everybody else in the whole wide world. Oh my word, oh man, I missed out on that one. And then the guest last week, they said, well, why would you do that? Why would you want more money? And I was like, oh man, I want to kill this guy.
Well, I mean, listen.
To maybe have a better register, so I don't have to live in a mobile home park. I feel like telling the guy, Man, it was a rough one last week. I'm telling you, it was a rough one. Man.
Falling down.
So the last item.
Brian Holtzman, unhinged.
The last. I even called Redban at home and told him I wanted to apologize. The last item of interest, I think everybody. This is how to prep for a hurricane. Trim trees. This is a big one. People don't realize this is why trees fall down. Is they're not properly. You got to let the air go through the tree. With a trimming. Branches can damage your house when whipped by the wind, so prune weak and encroaching branches in advance. Call your insurance company. Check your coverage. You can boost it through the National Flood Insurance Program. Secure important documents. Birth certificates, tax records, and the like should be copied and stored, and the originals put in a waterproof and fireproof container. Invest in a generator. A generator doesn't have to break the bank, especially if it'll be powering just a few essential appliances. Refrigerator. Check drainage, clean gutters and drains, and if you have a sump pump, check out it's working and consider adding a battery backup system. That sounds expensive. And armor the windows. If you live near the coast, keep a 1/2-inch plywood on hand that's cut to size. That makes sense. And then you can reuse it every time a hurricane blows in. And the boards, that they're usually reusable. Yeah. So that's that. That's the item of interest.
Is this the first hurricane or the second? Or are they really going to have the two hurricanes that they were talking about before? Do you know?
Well, this is the first one. It's supposed to be a very severe hurricane season, man. About 5. They already had one that kind of puckered out, didn't it, a little while ago? It puckered out. And this is global warming, in my opinion. I mean, everybody knows the South or the North Pole is the ice. That's the air conditioning of the Earth. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. You sounds good, though. It sounds good, Brian.
I mean, this whole thing is connected. It's a whole biosphere.
Yeah. Everything's connected, of course.
I mean, it's so sophisticated. And you start fucking around with it and you start injecting. It's just like your body. You want to drink 10 gallons of Diet Coke. Those chemicals, or Diet Pepsi, those chemicals are going to have a reaction in your body. These are man-made chemicals that your body has no idea how to process. It's the same damn thing.
Right.
But these people, and the reason they want to deny climate change is because it's going to cost them money.
Right.
So anything that's going to cost them money, they have to say is fake. They have to, it's all about money. So that's where we're at. So Ben, do you want to promote yourself, Ben? Do you want anything to say? Anything? How's the Black Lives Matter going? Do you want to comment on that?
I have. I've not gone to a protest recently. No. But
I hope.
I'm hopeful for more positive things. I think. A lot of companies
I was going to say something about forgetting politics and everything. This, and you'd agree with me. This is the nicest man, one of the nicest you're ever going to meet. Forget the thing that. So I'll be out. Some guy will ask me for spare change, and I'll give him $1, and I think I'm doing good. I'll go over to Ben's house. There's a new roommate moving in. I'll say, "Hey, what happened? I didn't realize." He's like, "Yeah, it's not really a roommate. I met this person. They don't have a place to live. I'm letting them crash here for a little bit until they get things together." Like, that's Ben Wilson, man. You've been to his Thanksgiving, how generous he is. This is a generous guy right here.
No, he is. I've known him
just a good
since
dude.
I came to L.A.
You got...
Is it more cupcake?
Yeah.
No, the Black Lives Matter, I think this is the gist of it right
there.
here.
Yeah, chinny chin. There you go.
Okay, thanks, Ben. People are going to get shot either by accident or unintentionally by police officers. Unfortunately, I don't think that we're ever going to stop that. Not because of the racism so much. It's just a very stressful job. People are prone to make mistakes. Guns are highly dangerous. And you can't train somebody to be not a bully, or you can't train somebody not to be frightened, and you can't train somebody not to. These are personality traits that any training in the world is not going to take out of that person if they're It's like a dog who bites.
Yeah.
A dog who bites is always going to bite.
Right.
And a dog who doesn't. There's dogs that never even think about biting somebody. So I think the problem is, and you can respond, is it's that when they're shooting people by accident or whatever the circumstances, or when they shouldn't be, nothing is happening to them. I think that's the rub. Do you agree? That's the rub.
I mean, you're in the ballpark. I think it's a larger problem in that growing up, I didn't grow up in a big city. I was a suburban kid, but I noticed that there's a certain personality type for police officers. New York is a perfect example. The New York beat cop in 1972 or 82, they kind of knew what was going on around what was going on. They knew the guy who ran the barber shop and the guy who ran the pizza parlor and the guy who ran the drugstore. That doesn't really exist anymore. So there's not really that much of a feel. It seems that, and again, I'm not well read on this stuff, but it just seems that you parachute somebody into a situation, then instincts take over. It's like comedy's a lot about reading the room, right? You go up on a stage you've been at it 100 times, you're going to react differently than if I drop you in the middle of Oklahoma somewhere. It's just, there's going to be a different feel. And that's part of it. But like you're saying, that's not something you can teach. I talk to law enforcement people all the time, and they all tell me the same thing, is the problem that they see in reform is like, there's no substitute for experience, right? You go from, the beat cop to, you learn, then you work at a different unit, then you become a detective, and it's like, that doesn't exist anymore. That manner doesn't exist anymore because, again, we talked about it earlier, management. The management of anything is what's going to be the conclusion, right? We've managed this pandemic horribly. It's going horrible. There are law enforcement agencies that are well managed, and you don't see as many problems in them as you do in some of these big city, unfortunately, these big city departments that are poorly managed. It's just that's the way it works.
Maybe for the first 5 or 7 years, the police officer, they just give him blanks. And then he'll have the experience after 5 or 7 years, then he can use real ammunition. I mean, because a lot of the shootings happen with relatively new police officers. You don't see any, like you said, experienced police officers.
There's the exception that proves every rule, right?
Right.
Like there's always an exception, but like
usually the senior officers aren't mistakenly having problems
because they know how to read a situation,
right?
And listen, these are, I agree with you, very tough situations a lot of the time.
Extremely tough. I see them. I feel bad for them. They get pulling people over in their car. How dangerous is that? Pulling people over in their car. it's innately dangerous. It's a very dangerous job, and I feel for him, and I feel sorry for how more difficult the job is now because of some of the officers that perhaps made bad decisions. So,
well, I would say that there's a cultural the divide that already exists between cultures and not having an understanding is going to be magnified once when out on the field. If you have limited to no experience with black people, and you're just going off of whatever programming you've already had, it leads to a bad situation. Whereas just a clear lack of empathy or lack of patience or whatever goes into making just these reactions, or even or overreactions. Just the one that happened a day or two ago, 7 times shooting somebody in the back, and it doesn't help. I want to say, then there's an immediate reaction to, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. That everything always gets apologized away instead of how did it end up this way? Like learning to de-escalate problems or not. I mean, in some of those cases, there's not even there was no. Like the guy got shot in Walmart, or the kid who's on the park. It's just boom, 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 and that doesn't happen seemingly as much with. Well, it doesn't happen with to white victims. Surely white people do get shot by police, but if you come in with a heightened feel that you have this heightened sense of awareness. Because you're already projecting blacks to be criminals or violent or whatever stereotypes that you have, then you're having to override something that's kind of been programmed into you.
Thank you, Ben. And I'm going to make sure that what you just said is going to be cut from this podcast. The whole thing, I guess 3 or 4 minutes back is going to be cut.
Yeah.
But no offense, it doesn't mean anything. Just routine. Happens on all the podcasts. So no, thank you for that. Do you want to promote anything?
No, but maybe I don't
want to leave the podcast on a downer.
Right.
A downer. No. We had such fun today. I mean, you were great, man.
I appreciate it.
I wish every guest would come in here and have so much to say, so intelligently.
Thank you.
I told you it'd be.
He always tells me I'm full of shit, so it's appreciative to hear from you, Brian.
No, waiting for the restrictions to lighten. Going to shoot something probably October. So hopefully have me back later.
Oh yeah, I'm going to have you back. You and it's Mariah Drew Carey's turn next, I think. Yeah, we want all 3 of her back. How about you? Do you want to promote yourself?
But before I promote, I just want to thank you. I mean, you had a couple of guys I know on here. Steve Simone you've had on, Earl Skakel. I'm a big Tripoli guy. So you had some really good people on here.
Felipe Estrada.
Yeah. Promote. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, there's no sports for a while. Nothing to promote. But follow me on Twitter. It's @Ghazal Hassan. It's generally sports stuff. And then boring referrals to 70s and 80s TV. I've been watching the old Batman series of late. So, Liberace, Joan Collins, a lot of interesting stuff. Alex Rocco playing one of Catwoman's henchmen. How about Eartha Kitt? Ooh la la. Anyway, right. I appreciate it, though. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming down. And if you want a Dead Air t-shirt, you can Venmo me and get one of those. I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys, for coming. Thanks Redban.
Redban, great to meet you.
Thanks, Bad Ashley.